Hello, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where it is all about learning. My name is Rick Zanani, and I'm joined today by Harold Muliati. He's our video producer, and today he's also co-hosting. We had a show rescheduled, so we decided to do something on our own just to keep things going. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking a lot about instructional design. Not so much how to write, but what kind of tools are you using to do your storyboards, if you will. Here we go.
This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation. Visit us at www.relatecasts.net. Thanks.
And we are back. That was quick. It popped back. Anyway, for those who are interested, because people are always asking, what kind of mic are you using? This is a Rode NTG3, and it is a shotgun mic, and usually what you'll see is the NTG3 with this on. It's the windsock. We don't need it here. It's not very windy. So we take it out. Also, when you take it out, you don't lose all of the higher frequencies. So you still get a little bit more mid and high on that. So anyway, that's it on microphones today. You know, people know that we like mics, and so we're always changing the mics around and testing and buying new ones or just rotating the old ones.
And depending on the microphone, the windscreen doesn't always affect the frequencies as much, but we were testing with this particular mic, the NTG3 right over here. I'm trying to point at it, my hand keeps going off screen. And it was taking out quite a bit of the higher frequencies. That doesn't happen as much with, for example, Rick's other shotgun that he often uses on the show.
Sennheiser 416.
Yeah.
That one, it's a different kind of windscreen. It's not as thick either. So they're all a little bit different, and they all react a little bit different, but just something to keep in mind. Now, today we want to talk a little bit about instructional design. One of the, I call it failing points in the world of instructional design is, what tool do you use? What tool do we use to write our storyboards? Do we use PowerPoint? PowerPoint's okay, but it's not the best writing tool. And if you do everything in notes, they're not the best place to format things. And they're even worse to really give it to a voiceover talent where they can read it and without having to, do a lot of modifications later. Not the best tool for some things. It's okay if you're trying to lay out a presentation or something like that. But even still, we like to create voiceover scripts for the voice talents because it makes their life easier. And it also makes our life easier too. Now, we use Word more often than not, and not the greatest tool again. There are online tools like Junto, which is really good. That's Xunto, and that's out of Montreal, and they do a great job with doing an online tool, but it may not work for everybody. I know in our case, it may not work because of the nature of having a lot of clients. It would be a little trickier to have that open for everybody, but it's a great tool. We like what it does with creating this. Now, people have created front ends to Word. They've created programming for Word using VB for apps, Visual Basic for apps, and that's a lot of work. And then things change and they don't work anymore. You always have that issue with Word or any tool that evolves sometimes faster than anybody would want. So we're still using Word as our main storyboarding tool. We use PowerPoint too, but a lot of times with what we do, Word is our tool. But a lot of people get confused or don't know how to use tool Word almost like a desktop publisher. So Harold's going to show a little bit about what you can do with the navigation pane in Word, which is a tool that allows you to move your pages around as if they were real pages, which they are. Word doesn't show them to you that way like a desktop publisher would, like InDesign or Microsoft Publisher. And by the way, we also did an experiment the other day. We tried importing our Word doc that we use for instructional design, our template, And let's see, I think we had an 18-page doc, and it turned into 64.
Yeah. I should have saved that to show because it was impressive what it
was
did
impressively
with it. Yeah.
bad. You'd think that Microsoft, with all the billions and billions, would actually spend a little bit of time creating a good import into Microsoft Publisher. Now, we don't use Publisher really, but we thought we'd give it a shot. Now, we could have actually tried importing that into InDesign. It may have worked. We did not try this because with InDesign, you'll see all the pages you have. You can go into a page view and navigate and things like that. You can do the same with Publisher, but it wouldn't import it that way. So basically, because we have a lot of tables, the tables were not well read, and it really screwed over the whole import. So it's just very interesting. And why don't we use InDesign? Because InDesign isn't the right tool for writing scripts. It's just tedious. We could be using screenwriting software, but again, not necessarily the right tool for what we need because voiceover and everything else.
And one big advantage of Word is that you often need people to review things and make comments and stuff. And pretty in the business world, pretty much everyone has a copy of Word, so they can just open up your Word document and add in review comments and check review comments and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and if you're a Mac weenie, which there are lots of Mac weenies out there, I'm included. I use 2 iMacs, one here, one at home, and I also use PCs. Pages is not the solution to everything, and not too many people have it. So there you go. Not that many. I think we were reading an article the other day of how many computers were Macs versus Windows. It was, I think there were 500-something million Windows machines, and there were 25 million Macs.
Yeah, it was a big gap.
It was enormous. And okay, what's to love about Apple and Microsoft? Either of them. Some stuff and a lot of stuff not. They both have a lot of issues. But they're both good in their own ways as well. So, it's not just that one loves an operating system over another. They both have a lot of flaws. I like the consistency of the Mac a little bit better, and they protect the kernel of the operating system, which Windows doesn't, even though they talk about it. So anyway, let's get back to trying to rearrange pages in a storyboard. Because let's say you write a lot of pages, and all of a sudden you go, oh, darn, I've got to take 5 pages out. I've got to insert 2 pages. I've got to move this page to the 4th section. How do you do all that? It's very time-consuming if you don't know how to use the navigation pane. So, Harold, would you like to show us how to make that happen?
So, first off, I would just like to show, what most people do when they're trying to do this and they don't know how to use the navigation panel is they start clicking and dragging, and they try to drag the whole page, and they end up with some of the next page and so on. But what you can do is if you have headings defined, and I'll show you how that works later, you can go to your view panel up here in the ribbon. Let me zoom in on that. So you go to view, and there's this little checkbox, right? It says navigation pane. You click that, it opens up this thing on the left side of your screen, which is the navigation page. And as you can see here, the headings here, they correspond to the ones you see on the screen here. Basically what it's doing is it's picking up a certain text style, and it's putting it in here as a heading. And whatever's in that heading until the next heading counts as a page. So, and let me zoom out a little here so you can see multiple pages. What we could do is, you see MO1, PO1 here, and you see MO1, PO2 here. See, they're out of order. So what we could do, what we can do here is we grab MO1, PO2, drag it after, so we drag these two and swap them around, and now they're in the right order. You didn't have to select any text. You didn't have to do anything. You just went to the navigation page.
Yeah, no copy-paste, because a lot of people copy and paste pages into different locations. That can cause a lot of grief.
Yeah, and you can just drag pages around to your heart's content, and it generally just handles it pretty well.
Yeah, and one bit of advice, when you have a lot of changes to make, go to the bottom of your document, or even the top, but you're better off at the bottom. Create a new page that you want to label it whatever it is, and then drag it up to where it belongs in what section or what chapter or what lesson, whatever you're calling it. And that's an easy way to put things back where they belong without having to try to insert a page, edit it on the fly internally. That's going to cause more grief, and you may get some spill from one page into another sometimes.
Yeah, and these are just sort of document hygiene tips so that you don't end up messing things up before you really know what you're doing. So now I'm going to show you, in order to create headings like this, what you have to do is you have to, say you want to type a page title or something. Let's go down to the bottom, like Rick just described. We type a title that says, let's see, new page. So we do that, and then we go to the home. We go to home on the ribbon. Let me zoom in there and show you where that is. It's the one that you start off on. It's the one all the way on the left there. You go to home, and what you'll see on the home ribbon towards the middle are all these text styles. And what you can do is you select the text that you used as the title, and you click one of these heading styles. And as you can probably see, just popped up there. Let me go down to it. You can see, and I'm zooming in on it here, that we now have new page in there. And anything between that new page title and the next heading will be dragged around when you move around the page. And so that's a very quick way to separate your document into different pages or sections that you can just move around.
Now, let's say he enters that new page, puts it, and then they tell him, you know what, we don't want that. Now he can delete it.
Yeah, you can just take the new page, and then you can just right-click on it, delete.
So it's another easy way to do a quick edit. Now, you can't change names in the navigation pane view. It won't let you. There's no way to edit the name as far as we've been able to tell.
Yeah, there are there are some limitations to it. You can't edit names directly in here. And you also can't see it visually. Like you just see it as this list here. Because as a lot of people may know, you also have the outline view, but this, while it shows you some other things, like it'll show you where page breaks are and that sort of thing, it doesn't really let you.
It doesn't have a concept of a page, just strictly content in an outline view.
As you can see, I tried to drag a page in this view, but it actually placed it inside another page. So
now, there are some tools that do allow you to have outlines that you can move around, deprecate, promote. You can do things with different parts of the outline. Word, again, with all the billions, you'd think that would have been an easy thing to do because there are outline tools that do this easily. Not Word. It would be nice, but they didn't. So the navigation pane was like stage 1 of their beta test. That worked okay, so let's not do anything else for another 10 years. And maybe you'll get an outline view that you could use. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? But they don't. And I'm jiving them a little bit, or jabbing them, because really, come on. Why don't we put those little features in that would make Word a lot more useful to people? And it would make it closer to a desktop publisher without spending that much time and money, because they already have a navigation pane view which does a quarter of that. They could expand on that. But that would be nice. That would be a nice feature if they could do that in outline view.
And another point on if you're going to use this, something that could potentially cause confusion. As you can see here, we have a lot of things in tables. If you put the heading text inside a table, it's not going to pick it up in the navigation. So if you're trying to make a page and it's not taking, it may be either in a table or maybe you have it in a header or footer. It doesn't pick them up there either. It has to be in the main body text of the document.
Right, because keep in mind, Word, like anything else, it's a certain level of, it's not a complete blank page even when you think it is. There are placeholders internally or hidden for headers, things like that, titles, that you can put, like a header section, a footer section is part of a document. So it has a specific place where it will look for that and find it. If you don't use it, it won't find it, period. If you try to go right to your table, like Harold said, the table cannot be in that header. It's too big. The header is meant only for a small area towards the top. So it enforces a little bit of discipline of where we put things, and it's easy to do. When we created this doc, it's a standard, what they call AV kind of type document, audio video type document. Been around forever since we've been doing desktop publishing, and they still work. On the left-hand side of the document, I don't know if you're in there, yeah. On the left-hand side, you've got programmer notes or anything you want to call out for the developers. On the right-hand side is your narration or captions, what you'll see in captions and or narration. If you have a different caption from narration, then we would recommend that you probably split them out so that the voiceover talent can easily read what they need to read in order to get the job done. And then at the top, we have just a title, plus we have usually a screenshot of what we want to happen. Not always, but usually we have a screenshot. And it's a good way to also storyboard or story block out the elements that we may want to have. We used to use a tool called Storyboard Quick, which allowed us to create kind of a nice storyboard of what we expect to be seen to see in a scene. People, houses, props, whatever you may want, especially if you're doing soft skills. That won't work really in a software simulation, but if you're doing soft skills, it could definitely work, and you could put things the way you want them. You could add graphics. You can do other things with it. So that creates a look of what people will see when it's done. And then, of course, you add your voiceover underneath that and everything. So Storyboard Quick was strictly to create the graphics. And then text was always usually on the right-hand side. And it worked pretty well. Had no problem doing what it needed to do that way. Keep in mind, when you're doing stuff like this, most of the time you're not the person reading it. If you have a shop with no money and you're the ID who also has to read everything, we're sorry for you. It's a lot of work. Make it easy for yourself. If you want to do it differently, that's fine. But what we have to do is, we could do voiceover internally. Sometimes we do. More often than not, we hire professional voice talent that will do what we want in terms of reading a specific way and just getting the best we can out of it. A lot of these people are voice actors as well, so they can really act a part out, really bring it to life. And that's a whole other topic of how do you get your voiceover to be less than boring. So the whole idea is to make it easier for them to read. So when we issue documents, the voiceover section, we usually try to have at minimum 14 points and many times 16 points. The reason is so they're not straining. You don't want your voiceover talent going, "Hi and welcome to the course." Can't read this damn thing. You don't want them suffering. You don't want that kind of result, because it will stilt their language. If they're struggling to read ahead because things aren't easily read, they will not read as well as they could. So part of that's working with your voiceover talent so that they can read and they get a feel for what you're doing. Once they get a hang of a storyboard, they can go very quickly through it. Good voiceover talents will also correct errors that an instructional designer may have made or may have committed in a document. So they serve more than just talking and using beautiful voices.
And just in general, having a well-structured, well-made storyboard, it makes stuff so much easier down the line, especially when you need changes, because there are a lot of things that you start working on and you think, I'm going to remember this, and then you don't. So if you have the proper notes to tell you what was supposed to be done,
yeah,
it's always...
and when you work in a team environment like we do, most vendors or most suppliers work in team environments where we have one person that tends to write the script. Another person formats other parts of that script or maybe sends it off to voiceover. Another person does QA to check to make sure, proof edit, that the script doesn't have a lot of typos or is clean or makes sense grammatically. And then it will also go to the voiceover talent who looks at the script, maybe even annotate some things, comes back. Now it's at a developer's hands. Well, actually, first of all, it goes back to the audio people who do the sound editing and then cut it into little pieces. And now that gets imported into the authoring tool. Now we begin the job of, let's read what's on the left-hand side. Oh, programmer notes, nothing here. Oh, wait, I have to create graphics for this. Oh, wait, I need to do this. So we've got 4 or 5 people at any one point on working off of one script at different points in that script's life. So we need to be very consistent in what we do with the scripts so that it's easy for everybody to figure out what is next and what their tasks are to be done in those steps. So I guess that's it on this part of it. Anybody in the chat room?
We don't have anyone at the moment.
Okay, nobody's in the chat room.
Looks like
right
we have
now.
some people watching, so hello.
Okay. If you are in the chat room and you want to contribute some to this, correct us or add to the conversation, what do you use to create your storyboards? Is it Word? Is it Story? Is it some other specific tool? Is it a screenwriting tool? Is it Notepad? Anything is possible. Are you using a desktop publisher, PowerPoint? How do you create your storyboards? And do you work by yourself or do you work with others when you finally finish that storyboard? Not to mention we work with SMEs, and the SMEs have to review things often. That's a whole other issue. You can use tools like Review My Learning or whatever. There's a whole mess of tools that let you review learning, but they don't always work through firewalls and they don't always get approved by the clients. It's a great tool if you can, but it's not always easily available. So just something that we have to work with. And it's nice to have one of those tools because then you don't have as many hands writing duplicate notes or anything like that. It can stop a lot of that.
So we have a comment from Dina Beavers, who says she uses Google Slides templates for someone else we were talking to recently used Google Slides. It was the
whole Google Docs idea is a good one. And if I'm not wrong, Dina, you can use the slide template and work with other people collaboratively. So you can make changes, they can make changes. I think you can do that with the slides templates. Now, how do you work the voiceover part of it? Do you have to create a separate voiceover script?
And I'm trying to remember who that... I remember us having someone on the show who was showing some Google Slides template stuff. I believe it was our...
Did Dina respond?
There tends to be a little bit of a delay on the video, but she says, so this is replying to some of our stuff a little bit before that. She says, correct, I'm just learning. So I think that's more about the being able to use it for collaboration and
you know what, Dina, we're all just learning.
Yeah, that is true.
It never ends.
That's why they call it the learning industry.
The learning industry, yeah. Which oftentimes refuses to learn. That's one of the funniest things about this. It's sort of like doctors. They refuse to learn new techniques to doctor better. Engineers, perfect at that. We love creating new things, but we don't want to learn anything new.
And Dina says, I have seen where you have it separate. So I guess that's like...
Which is what we do, or what we used to do. If somebody asked us to do the storyboard in PowerPoint, which again would be like Google Slides, then what we do is a separate template for the voiceover, because PowerPoint or Google Slides aren't the best choice for creating a lot of text in terms of readable text. And if you there are different ways you can print from these things. You can print slides view, notes view, but it's not great, and you don't have a lot of formatting ability in these tools to format it so that somebody can read it well. And a lot of times they'll format across a whole screen. By the way, here's something to keep in mind. When you create a storyboard, a voiceover script for the voice talent, don't go across a whole page. If any of you out there do that, bam, bad boy and girl, or whatever. No, it's not a good idea. The reason is our eyes have to track. And if you're tracking across a whole page and coming back, it's very hard to read well. That's why if you look at screenplay software, it's a part of a page. It's probably a third of a page. That's because the eyes can read that much more quickly than reading across a whole page. Eye tracking, especially as you get older, starts losing the track of where you are. The muscles get weaker and you start looking all over the place and not necessarily on the line you want to be on. So keep that in mind when you're writing scripts for voice talent. Keep them half page, no more. No more. That would be max. Maybe a third of a page would be okay. Smaller, more readable, much, a lot of people can read right off of their iPhones or smartphones, a tablet, and again, keep it to not too large or not too long. Again, very hard to track, and it makes their reading a lot more complex than it needs to be.
So Dina said for her workflow, the voiceover talent has their own version without all the other aspects that they don't need to see. They see the images. And this sort of reminds me, we sometimes do the thing where if we have updates or something to a course, if we have updates or revisions or something like that, we'll often just send out a version of the script that only has the updated parts for the VO to read, so that they're not necessarily having to skip over stuff that they don't actually need to voice in that
would be smart. So what you guys are doing is very smart, because the voiceover talents just read what you tell them to read. If you tell them, just read these 3 paragraphs out of page 6, that may not work quite as well as you think it does. And most voiceover talents are very good readers, and they're very good at figuring out what's on a script, what shouldn't be on a script, and they'll ask questions. But you're right. It's much easier to just send out a part. But here's another thing, though. After you send out that part, reintegrate it back into the script. And the reason being, when you get to the end of a project and you've had 10 revisions, it's really hard to go back and look at the 10 different revisions that are not part of the main script. Reintegrate it back. It's a pain, but it's a lot safer to do that, because then when you look at it a year later, a year and a half later, 6 months later, maybe never, 5 years later, some courses come back. They want to redo it, and they want to redo all the audio. Now you've got to make sure you get all the right parts, or you print it as, let's say you're using Storyline or Captivate or one of the other tools like Tora. You can print what's on the screens and everything, and so you'll have kind of a quasi storyboard. So that is the worst case scenario. You at least know what's current based on that, but it's a lot harder to then reformat that into something that's digestible without needing an antacid or something.
It looks like our LinkedIn stream cut out at some point. It says it's back online, but I don't think it's on the same LinkedIn post.
So we lost people.
So we lost people, and it was probably in the middle of our answer there. I'm just gonna tell them in that previous one.
Yep, we're sorry, that happens, but we will upload the whole show. We always do. We don't take the live show as the final, because LinkedIn has a real problem dropping connections. Lots of drops, and it's a shame. I think are we streaming to Facebook?
We are, yes. Yeah, so our Facebook
this is on
pages.
Facebook. Facebook usually doesn't drop us at all, and then we upload to YouTube. So we will upload to YouTube, to LinkedIn, and we'll also have it live on Facebook, and that'll stay up for forever, I guess.
And it does look like Dina said, thank you, I have to go. So thank you, Dina. And looks like she was just leaving as we cut off anyway.
Oh, okay, good. That was good timing. Dina, you're sharp. You're on it. We need to get you on the show. That's it. That's all we want to talk about today, and really get your feedback. So if you're watching this show not live, that doesn't mean we're dead. That just means we're not live. Please send us your feedback. Let us know what you think, because this is a topic that affects all of us in one way or another, and most of us hate this part of the topic. If we could just develop, great, but we have to write, and writing causes issues because the tools aren't really designed to write the way we sometimes want to present, especially in a media world. And we're used to doing a lot of movies and things like that. We do a lot of corporate video. So you've got to create your shot lists, your scripts, and everything. That's a little different. We can still use the same audio-visual format or video format, but it's not always as easy in an e-learning situation. All right, well, that's it for today. Any other closing comments on your end, Harold?
That's all we've got since Dina said she left. So,
okay. Well, thanks for watching the show. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the section below, and or subscribe. You can subscribe to our LinkedIn. I think it's under my name, Rick Zanotti, and or you can subscribe to our podcasts on RELATECASTS on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/RELATECASTS, all one word, RELATECASTS. Give us a like, a thumbs up, a thumbs down, whatever. Give us some feedback. We always appreciate feedback. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't been there, we have a forum which is dead. I mean, really dead. I don't know what's going on with this world. It's called the eLearning Developer Forum. We've had it before. We started it up again about 2 months ago. Very little activity. But there is quite a bit of content out there. Feel free to create your own content, ask questions, or come out with comments. You want to review something, review it. No, honest reviews are good. We do not censor, so be as honest as you want to be. And that's part of what we created the forum, to give people an area where they can actually talk about tools without being marketing censored. That happens a lot in this industry, and others as well. Anyway, have a good one, everyone. We will see you soon on the next eLearnChat. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.